Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. So 5 days of January 2020, years just started. 5 days before my son's 8th birthday party, my wife is diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of breast cancer. So, that's pretty bad by itself. Fast forward a couple of weeks, she has surgery in February. Some complications from that. She's actually, stuck in the hospital for about a week. Valentine's Day 2020, we spent in the hospital. That was fun. Got to sleep on, the little couch there in the room.
Real comfortable couch on the side right there.
Was it blue or brown?
Who knows at this point? I don't know.
I think the blue ones are less comfortable than the brown ones. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no doubt. And so let's fast forward to March 2020. So my wife starts chemo. I was able to go with her to the first chemotherapy session. And then what happens about a week after that? Well, COVID hits, right? The world has just turned literally upside down. No one knows what's going to happen. It's literally, people think it's the end of the world. So we're dealing with all of this. I'm not allowed to go with my wife anymore to chemo. She has to drive by herself because they're not allowing anyone in the building, just the people that were going for treatment. So we have all this. On top of that, so I have an 8-year-old son. My daughter was going to turn 6 last March. So we have all that, and they're now homeschooled. And on top of that, running a business with 50 people that work for RP. So it's like it was just incredible snowball of effects that it really seemed like life could not possibly get any worse. And then you throw in, because we had to take the quarantine and then COVID very seriously because my wife's going through chemo. Again, this is, let's call it March, April last year. No one really knew. Like, we literally thought COVID could have been the end of the world. Thankfully, it maybe turned out not as bad as people might have originally thought. And so it was dealing with all this stuff. It was really, really hard to kind of figure out what next to do. And I'm just I'm an avid reader. I'm a pretty big nerd. And so I'd been thinking about all these things, all these commonalities, and we've talked a little bit about them. Like, what do successful people do? And it's not just business. It's not just fitness. It's not just whatever, overcoming adversity, but there are these common principles that people have in common that successful people share. And so it's one thing to sort of talk about them, but then you take everything that has happened in the span of 3 months, basically, you cram it all in there, and it's entirely different idea to really live these principles each and every day. And that's what really 2020 forced me to do, forced my wife to do. I mean, she's a warrior, way stronger than me, of course. And then it really just was an eye-opening experience for me. It's like, well, you really have to truly live and breathe these principles every single day because there's so much crap going on.
And how's she doing?
She is doing very well. Thank you for asking. She finished treatment in August.
Oh, good. Yeah, we were praying for her. Let me ask you a question. As she was going through that, did she's obviously on the diet program. Did y'all shift her diet, or did you create something for that kind of workout? Because that's when my mom went through it, I explained it to her like this. It's like, Mom, pain is pain. I was like, it depends on how you look at it. I was like, when we go into the gym, we work out real hard, chest real hard. The next few days, it feels like a chest is being ripped out. But we're laying there thinking it's awesome. Like, yeah, because I'm growing. I was like, we're going to put you under the knife. We're going to work it out real hard for overnight, and then you're going to be sore for a week. And then she went through that too. And we shifted that pain scale, but also did with the diet. Did y'all change that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Man, there's just a lot of, no one really knows for sure. And so when you're going through chemo, you have all these drugs in your system. Sometimes it's just really hard to even have an appetite. So really it's kind of listening to what the doctors had said and just being, you just got to kind of eat. And some days you might feel like eating a lot. Some days you might not feel like eating much. So it's one of those things we didn't want to have an additional stress on top of that when she's already going through this. And it's, quarantine, pandemic, and she's trying to homeschool our kids. I'm trying to homeschool our kids. So we weren't really too strict with anything nutrition-wise during then. It was just sort of, how do you get through the next day? How do you get through the next week?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd been curious to see if
that's
there was
interesting.
something specific that you could have. I think there's everybody wants to know if there's a specific diet that'll address a certain cancer or cancer in general. Because just like you said, when you're beat down, your body, sometimes it feels it wants something salty or sweet, and it kind of changes what you can eat. And that's in its worst beat down form.
And we come out of the gym sometimes, you're like, man, I want to go eat this. But or your body wants to eat that, but you're like, no, I got to go. And I'm just curious as to the correlation between the two.
Yeah, it's really tough to say because sometimes you might just feel nauseous, right, from all these medicines, or actually even changes your taste buds around. So my wife would be trying to eat some stuff, and she's just like, "This doesn't taste like normal. This doesn't taste like anything." She could be eating a delicious dessert, and she's like, "I don't literally taste anything. It's like nothing's there." So it again, it just goes back to, I think, some of the basics. You just try to eat healthy. We have to be able to adapt during that and just have some of that flexibility and not be too strict, because you don't want to be too rigid and kind of add that additional stress when you're already under so much of it.
Is that something, I don't remember seeing this on when I was doing the RP diet, is that something like as far as expansion goes, there'd be a tab on the RP diet that, hey, if you're diabetic, we recommend here. If you're in chemotherapy, we recommend this, and just maybe expanding your portfolio. I don't think anybody's doing that, actually. Now that I kind of
so we have some registered dietitians on staff that can work with people that might be diabetic type 1 or type 2, or have things like PCOS or hypothyroidism. So the app kind of has some limitations in that it can't help people that have medical conditions, because medical conditions, it really does require a little bit more in-depth approach. You have to be a little bit more careful with things. Probably want to work with someone that's trained in those areas, like a registered dietitian.
Or somebody who's going through it. Ain't nobody better than somebody who's had to go through, because it's those little tricks, right? It's like, hey, you eat this, you eat this, you eat this, but as I was having this feeling, I mixed my water with this kind of drink with orange, and man, it helped me out or something. You know what I'm talking about? It's like those little. There's always the outlines, but then when you splice those together, what it creates, there's that little hybrid moment, and when those usually we keep for ourselves. Those are the best parts.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.